It's nothing too outstanding yet.
Of course, just as a reminder, Woodid and Prophet are in on the Rogue roster this week. Finn and Vander returned to the Regional League to try and help them secure that top spot there, while Woodid and Prophet continue to gain experience working with the team and grow as much as possible before entering Summer Split. Now, looking at some of the bans that have come across the board, looks like some of the focus has been directed towards EQ from the side of Origen. Both Cassio and Lucian, very strong picks, but also taken out of the hands of the bot lane for Rogue.
Rogue now debating on what their final ban can be. Of course, they have blue side, so they have the luxury of banning away more champions that can be targeted, that can be focused. And in this case, it is Nukedux LeBlanc that will be taken away, taken off the board.
Now, Jace is still available alongside the Jarvan. Looking at some other power picks. Interestingly, we've seen a pretty dramatic drop-off of Ezreal this patch. Feels like that he is nowhere near as important to many teams as he was before. Which I find quite interesting. It does mean that things like Kalista have risen in priority, something that Patrick has valued a lot. Over in the LCK, we saw Griffin pretty much first picking it whenever they had the opportunity to do so. And I wouldn't actually be that surprised if we saw Origen do something similar, given that typically in the 2 versus 2, Origen have a lot of faith in their bot lane.
But yesterday, of course, we did see Cold kind of pop off on this Rek'Sai, so not surprising to see them early prioritize it here. But it looks like, Vedius, we may see the Kalista taken as well. So securing that strong jungler for Cold, as well as securing that incredibly strong bot laner into the hands of Patrick. Now, this is a pick that in LCK has looked very good, but I don't think we've seen the same level of performance recently in the LEC.
Yeah, I don't think we've really seen many Kalistas pop off, but I do know that of the Kalistas that have found success here in Europe, Patrick has certainly been one of them. What I already like about this composition from Origen is it is quite early game focused. You have a lot of already clear win conditions, which is, hey, if you get this Kalista ahead in the laning phase, you're going to be looking very good. The problem with locking in the Rek'Sai so early is that it denies the Alistar pick, which Rogue are very quick to grab for themselves alongside the Tristana, which I think in a straight-up 2v2 can come out ahead, as we saw earlier in the day in the Misfits versus Schalke series.
Thresh is, of course, though, another pick that has been finding a lot of success. But the Galio is going to be priority here. Of course, much better synergy with the Kalista than a pick like the Thresh in terms of just raw engage power. So very strong level 3 in this 2 versus 2 for Origen. So we'll keep our eyes out for that as we get into the game. But now we approach the second half of the draft. What Origen could look to do is deny away some junglers if they assume that the Jarvan is going to go top. Alternatively, they could ban away... Thinking about if they ban away some of the... So I'm thinking... If they're banning away things like Kennen or maybe a Vladimir, that to me suggests that they kind of want to force Prophet to take the Jarvan top, because they're thinking, well, you know what? Now there aren't that many good picks into the Jarvan, which means the Origen maybe have something unique prepared for it. But outside of that, this just implies that they have something that they want to draft into the top side of the map that they don't want the Kennen to go up against, in which case they're expecting the Jarvan to go into the jungle. So what I'm basically saying is I have no idea what Origen is planning. I wasn't going to rat you out. I was going to say, wow, Vedius, I mean, the mind games and picks and bans are so deep, so intense. Thank you for breaking down some of what could be going through the players' heads right now. Zoe the ban, Kennen the ban. We'll see the final ban here for Origen.
But there's a lot of it. I called this
as well.
The mind games. Sure. I can read what Origen is thinking.
I've spoken to Deficio before the game.
I didn't do that!
Just kidding. Obviously. Now we do see the final ban. I wonder if they will take another mid laner away from Nukedux, and yes, they're going to take the Syndra off the board. So trying to, I think, take away every single blind pickable mid laner, the LeBlanc, the Zoe, the Syndra as well, to make sure that Origen have to blind pick at least one of their solo lanes in a not comfortable way, but so the Renekton just going to get locked in.
I was right, is what we've learned here.
Yes.
Don't
provide any more context, just you were correct. Yes.
Kennen and Vladimir, good matchups into the Renekton. Not only can they bully him, aside from the Vladimir, but they also have the ability to outscale in the side lane. Interestingly, we're seeing the Ivern jungle, so it will be the Jarvan top, which Origen are more than happy to have the Renekton play into. And this looks like a little bit the Rogue going for a bit of the protect the AD carry composition and a very fast lock-in of the Orianna into the Rise.
Oh, and that's going to be pretty hard to protect the Tristana, I'm going to be honest. That is a Galio that is going to get thrown face first into your team with a potential Orianna Shockwave to follow, as well as a Rek'Sai who has the ultimate that can just about chase you anywhere.
I will say there's not a lot of lockdown on the side of Rogue, so I think it's going to be difficult for them to really kill the Callista. So I'm kind of seeing it a lot of front-to-back style of fighting from both these teams right now. Given that unless Renekton can get a good flank, I think it's very difficult to dive onto the back line. But Rogue, they actually have a fairly... I don't want to say too squishy of a composition, because they do suppose have the Alistair, and then if they have a Jarvan going with the Ivern buffing him up as well, I think they've got a pretty solid front line. The reality is, though, both teams have pretty good scaling. Both 3 items are very, very good for both teams. I think what our Rogue have a little bit more of is the ability to play the 1-3-1 more on the sideline, because they have the Rise and the Jarvan both running teleport. Whereas Origen, I think the Rek'Sai will be the key thing to keep your eyes on in the early game. He can play around Alfari, he can play around Patrick, and I'm wanting to see Origen actually be more active in the early game with the composition that they drafted.
We will find out, Benny. Of course, it is Rogue on the blue side, Origen on the red. Origen fans here in the audience want to see this team win, but Origen cannot afford to underestimate Rogue. Every win still does matter for this team. Win here locks them playoffs, and if they want to contest any of those top spots in the playoff bracket, they need to keep finding these wins. A team like Rogue needs to be a speed bump, and they need to dominate. We're going to see if that can happen as we get into game. We almost got synced with the cowbell, ladies and gentlemen. If Mithy plays it again, or Wadid plays it again, I would just, you know, someone could sync up with that. That's all I'm saying. Good opportunity.
Giving them that opportunity. I respect that, Dracos. Ooh, okay, really small fun fact thing that I noticed. Dematerializer on the Ariana is a little surprising to me, because she typically has a lot of wave clear that you don't normally need the extra Dematerializer, but what it does mean is that by taking it and killing one of the caster creeps early, it means that you actually have... there's a certain level, I think it's around when you have 4 or 5 points in your queue, but once you've got the Ludens, you can just instantly clear that backline wave, which is super, super valuable. So we want it for that extra bit of wave clear, which I think is pretty cool.
And you see the level 1 from Rogue here. The plan is to start with the root collar from the Ivern. If they hit someone in the bush, all of those champions immediately jump over the bush with the power of that ability. Just find a quick and easy level 1 first blood. Does not pan out as a more aggressive posturing from Alfari, standing, of course, in that side bush in the river. And now we're going to see a much more patient, much slower level 1 than we saw in the previous game. Ivern going to get no leash because it's Ivern. That's not how it works. But Rek'Sai will start solo on the top side.
Yeah, and a Rogue should know that he started up towards the top side of the map, because they saw him clear out that ward, and there's no way he'd be able to get to blue buff in time. One of the cool things about Rek'Sai is because of the regeneration that you get from your passive, it actually means that you can just solo clear because you have a lot of sustain during your early clears. One of the things that I love to see junglers do against Ivern in particular is invade. His clear speed is, fun fact, not the fastest, and he can't trade for anything. So that's why Cold cleared out that ward earlier on, and it was instantly replaced by Senkux, because they wanted to know what Cold was up to in the early game. So I wouldn't surprise to see a smite here as it comes through from Kikis to make sure that his jungle counts don't get stolen away by the cheeky and nasty Cold.
And I like to start there, waiting to smite the camp until he thinks one of them might be contested, holding that. Now he can go back to the bottom side and pick up a little bit more experience, get to that level 3. Wolves will be done shortly after the other 2 camps are finished, so he's not in a bad spot overall. Of course, Cold can move into the jungle, can look to contest Ivern taking some of these camps, but all it's going to take is Kikis channeling uncontested to take that one away. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is Ivern. Just a very odd champion. And of course, the thing about Ivern is that he has his own weird jungle pathing, and he forces you to kind of play to his game, right? You have to jungle differently when you're playing against a champion like Ivern.
You certainly do. And while Cole did try to steal away some stuff, try to get in the face of Kikis, make his life difficult, he unfortunately couldn't quite find anything thanks to the good early vision coming out from the side of Rogue. And now Cole will make his way towards the blue buff, while Kikis makes his way back up towards top side. And you will notice that Prophet early on does have the push against Alfari. Renekton is a little level-based in the early game, and until he gets all those points in his levels, he can't really look to trade or be aggressive. Meanwhile, for Prophet, he can just harass with that E. Very low mana cost, recently got buffed and is very obnoxious to deal with. So that's why Prophet is able to get the push up towards the top side. Meanwhile, in the bot, you can see that Rogue respecting the potential level 3 for Mithy and Patrick. Now though, makes he a dive up top.
Could see a dive very big. It does connect in the end. Alfari now going to have to flash out to safety. Well played. In the end, they're on the side of Rogue. Very good start to the game to get the flash and not lose anything in exchange. And Alfari already suffering in this lane. 9 CS to the 24 of the Jarvan. Very difficult spot for him to be.
Sure. Alfari being put behind, but Cold immediately makes his way down towards the bot side of the map. Going to use his sweeper to clear out some of this vision. Here we are, Mythy. Where's the flash taunt?
Going to come in, the flash taunt, the two-man connect. Now Tristana needs to jump out to safety. They're trying to wait for the input buffer, but instead they're going to turn their attention to the Alistar. First blood now dropping for Origen.
Easy peasy stuff for Origen. They find the kill down towards the bot side of the map. He wasn't even overextended, they just didn't have any vision there. They just knew that Kikis was top side. There was no way, realistically, for a counter gank, meaning that Origen find themselves first kill of the game.
And Vedius has predicted that. Level 3, so incredibly strong. Of course, EQ has the tools to get himself out, but indeed just does not have the same luxury, and already we're seeing the Kalista lane get off to a good start. Of course, EQ is going to get maybe a better back here, a bit more CS under his belt, but the gold from the kill definitely going to balance that out as we see the Boots 2 coming in for the Kalista. And Kikis confident enough to move in and contest these camps. Of course, only level 3. Nuke Duck now moving up to Bully.
He does have flash. This is a unique
Alfari's
path.
right here.
Yes.
Prophet could try to contest this, but would give up a lot of CS in the process. But Kikis is just going to be able to walk away in the end. Cold now waddling his way forward. Little Land Shark cannot do much here. So Kikis, I mean, very aggressive play. Ultimately gets nothing but headbutt pulverizes there. They're not going to try to find the follow-up CC. Nuke Duck immediate cleanse out. Well played on that one.
So, shout out to all the solo queue players. Note how the moment the CC landed, Nuke Duck used his cleanse. He didn't use it after he took all the damage. He did it before that, because he respected the potential for him to die.
This is my favorite Vedius. Salty solo queue Vedius is so great, because I can tell when you've been grinding recently, because your references go from, Captain Jack, to, that guy who threw in solo queue. Watch this game and learn. Be better.
That's a little true. It's called the art of Foxtrot had a really good word for it. I can't remember what it is though, but it's the idea that you do it beforehand rather than after it's already happened.
Yep, there you go. Now, of course, Alfari's going to get aggressive here. The flash fall, the knock-up Prophet immediately taken down. That's going to help recoup some of the CS differential that Alfari has stacked against him. Well played from Cold once again. This man has been everywhere.
And this is great. This is exactly what we wanted to see from Origen play towards the early game. 6 minutes in, Cold has found 2 successful ganks around the 2 lanes that we expected him to play around, both the Kalista Galio lane along with the Renekton lane, and now they're both in very good spots. Now, sure, Alfari's going to be a little upset that he didn't find the kill, given that he is down in CS, but still, overall advantage gain for Origen. They're now sitting at about a 1,000 gold lead.
And to be fair, if you watched Cold's performance on Rek'Sai yesterday, that incredible team fight where he was able to find all those kills.
Oh, for sure.
You think Cold might have an argument to say, hey, I am the carry jungler now, and this is going to come together. Prophet, you might still expect him to be favored in the 1v1, still has a lot of these good items under his belt, but it does get harder and harder as the Renekton gets to level 6. Not just the extra health, not just the AoE damage, but the additional rage build just makes him such a terror to play in these 1v1s.
So, bit of an invade coming down from the side of Rogue. They want to get information on the red buff, and they will be able to steal this one away. Good awareness from Kikis, knowing that this one would be available, and also means that a red buff will go on to Prophet. One of the advantages of Ivan is that regardless of what blue buff, the red or blue buff he takes, you can share that. Now immediately they're onto Alfari, no flash.
Going to jump in. Prophet now. Is he going to use the Cataclysm? The Slice and Dice is available. Alfari can just walk right into this one. Can use the Cold Meat to get a little bit more healing. And will dash right out. Beautiful use of the Slice and Dice from Alfari, burning so much time for that one.
Respect to Alfari surviving that once again. I feel like he's a player that is used to now on Origen receiving a lot of pressure thrown towards him. Many other teams don't usually try and attack bot or mid lane. They always go for Alfari, and he's definitely good at soaking up the pressure, but I don't know if he gets away from this one. Cold on the way.
Full Rage Bar gets 2 empowered ability. We'll use the Cold Meat to find the healing. Now holding on to the rest of the ability. We'll use the empowered Slice. Can't look for the empowered Dice. The tower is there. He's reduced his armor, and that means bam, baby! Kill picked up by Cold.
And Cold didn't even need to be there. That was gonna be an outplay from Alfari. The tower shot was en route, but fortunately it was still secured nonetheless. Beautiful stuff from Alfari, and he's able to get the out.
And Cold hits him with the I'm the jungler and I'm helping. Takes the kill away.
This is called the tax. And you have just paid, Alfari. Thank you very much for that. I'll be back in 5 minutes to
take another one. Let me know when you're going to outplay a dive again. I'll swing back around and just pick that up.
Yeah, hopefully we get to see a replay of that to really acknowledge what he was able to do there. But in the meantime, Rogue have been getting some deep vision. Thank you, observers, for helping illustrate that. And you'll notice that a lot of it is towards the top side of the map, because this has been the lane that Rogue have tried very hard to try and shut down and to really get Prophet ahead.
And now Origen going to take total control of the bottom side. Kick is going to do what he can to clear back here, but without a smite, can't really contest those camps. And Nukeduck now moving down to the bottom side. They're ready to dive this tower. Galio going to move forward. Is he going to burn the flash? Not going to commit to it. Instead, going to look and turn to the plate. Senkux is on the way, has the Realm Warp available. Do they want to take this fight? Rootcaller missing from Kikis would say no. Of course, Daisy not available either, and Kikis getting further and further behind in the jungle. They're just going to back off, but well played by OG now to shift their attention right back to the Infernal Drake, have sustained this lane pressure here as well, and everything going right for this OG lineup in the early game. 9 minutes in, and it is almost a 2.5k gold lead, as well as a soon-to-be Infernal Drake, so very, very clean game.
Overall, yes. I do feel the only criticism I can throw towards Origen is that their vision has been lacking a little bit, but to look back at this outplay, we see a big heal comes out from Alphari. Note here how he hasn't used his stun yet. He's waiting for the aggro to swap, and because Prophet had red buff, he then draws aggro. He then gets stunned underneath the tower, and you can see that last tower shot would likely have gotten the kill, but just for security, because Cold clearly noticed that Prophet got a tiny bit of health back, he was like, you know what, I'll help you secure this one, Alphari.
And that was a miscall for me, because I thought he was using the Empowered Slice Dice for the armor reduction, but he dashes through the creeps, barely missing the champion, so it doesn't consume the rage, and instead, you know, hits there, connects. So it was a good look overall from Alphari.
Big brain Alphari.
Big brain Alphari. Looks good on this
It's a common thing for us Welsh people, you know? It's like a...
I'm gonna let you have that one.
Thanks, man.
I'm gonna let you have that one because it was obviously a very clean play from Alphari. And I think one of the awkward things about this matchup, Vedius, that we don't see as much in the Aatrox matchup is that Aatrox passive reduces healing.
Right.
Jarvan doesn't have any interaction with that. Iron doesn't have any interaction with that. So when you're diving a Renekton with so many ways to recoup health in the Cold of Meek, it's really hard to kill this guy because Iron doesn't do any damage.
But you know what? He's coming back anyway. Clearly they've got beef with Alphari, and they want to turn him into a pair of boots as they look to set up another play up topside.
Alphari just going to dash out. Cataclysm has now been used. He just immediately turns to the ult. The Rage Generation's coming in. He's going to use the second dash to make it to safety.
Survives another gank. Alphari, 3 for 3 now, and Cole trying to provide some assistance.
And I'm going to be honest, this is not looking great from the Rogue side. This is 3 ganks that have not amounted to much past to burn flash. Alphari's now going to turn it back. Cold to Meek, dash in, dash out. TP has now been consumed. If Alphari makes it away from this one, it is disaster. Can he do it? The flash to safety. They can't get anything else. Look how many resources have been burned just trying to kill Alphari. If the OG win this game and Alphari is not player of the game, I will be stunned. Because the reality is his scoreline may not look pretty. His farm may not look pretty. But this man has survived literally everything that has been thrown at him.
And this is where my small criticism comes in for Origen. Ooh, that's a good amount of damage on the duo. Mithy forces Wadid out. Patrick forces Hiku out. Beautiful stuff from them. But Cold has spent a lot of time trying to help Alphari in the top side of the map. And sure, he was able to get some kills and turn it around in his favor, but I feel like there could have been much better playing around the bot side of the map, taking a Fnatic approach to the game where instead you just focus on trying to snowball Mithy and Patrick, who are already so far ahead. It should be easy for them to maybe secure an early tower and take more control over the map so you can sooner get Alphari out of this 1 versus arguably 3 at this point.
1v3-4 if Daisy's available as well. It really depends on the context, Vedius. The issue, I think, for Rogue right now is that everything is going right for OG. Every single lane is doing well. The one lane that they've tried to put down is surviving, is doing fine, is even to a certain degree ahead in items over his respective lane opponent. So things will only go from bad to worse if Rogue cannot find a greater advantage here. Eyes on Kikis at this point. He has the redemption. He's got good setup. May not have the damage, but has the setup for his respective damage dealers. And he needs to get something done because everything that he's tried so far has just fallen flat.
Completely agree. Kikis has tried a lot, but unfortunately hasn't resulted in much. He will have the redemption completed now, so that extra bit of healing will definitely be valuable in team fights later on. But just notice that Patrick is running the Hail of Blades. Some may be familiar with like Lethal Tempo because it's much stronger in the later game. But the thing about Hail of Blades is it makes you so much stronger in lane because you can very quickly get a bunch of Ren stacks into an enemy champion almost immediately. So that's where his lane dominance is coming from right now, as Origen continue to push the lead all across the map.
And Origen fans cheer for this Rift Trail charge. They're going to get one more. They weren't ready for that one, though. Understandable. The double charge, not something you always see. A little bit of gold goes over to Senkux. It is 18.6k to 23k, ladies and gentlemen. Rogue versus OG. Rogue already out. We were wondering if they could play spoiler. Well, it's going to take a lot at this point if they want to continue to hold that role, as OG just have a near indomitable gold lead. First item spikes completed pretty much across the board outside of top lane. You see the Warrior Enchant coming in, the Luden's Echo, the Blade of the Rune King. And all of the champions are pretty scary on one item.
Yes, they certainly are. Luden's Echo Oriana is actually like really uncomfortable. I really don't like playing against it. She gets even scarier once she completes the Nullifying Orb. But Blade of the Rune King, Kalista, very scary. Rage Blade is what I expect second. Some do go for the Rune's Hurricane, depending on your preference. There's a lot of options. Fortunately for Alphari, yet to complete his Black Cleaver, but I can't blame him, considering the amount of ganks that have been thrown his way. Definitely a big item spike for him once he completes it, because it'll increase his trading power a lot. And it's also, I believe it's very easy to stack with his ultimate as well, right? So
ultimate does magic damage, but when you have the Rage, obviously a Q, a W, and E, you're at 5 stacks, including an auto.
Right.
I mean, you get to 5 stacks almost instantaneously.
Right.
And the additional movement speed on an ability like Ruthless Predator that has such a long animation is really nice to have.
Good stuff. So right now, Rogue are actually moving up towards the top side of the map, and OG recognizing this, make a play towards the Drake. I think they'll be fine sacrificing this tower, and Alphari just needs to make sure he doesn't overstay his wealth.
A question though. Alphari's a bold man, Vedius. Will he commit? He's used his ulti, he's committing. There's not a creep wave here, they're fully gonna commit for the dive. They're gonna try to kill the Croc, he's knocked back into the middle. Team is gonna dash through, he gets knocked away by the Tristana. Insult to injury, the Galio now coming in, Kolumi gonna give him a little bit more help. EQ, desperate to get this kill. Alphari is still alive, are you kidding me? Send a 5th one, Rogue, it's just not gonna happen.
You gotta give a shout out to Mithy there, the ultimate coming in clutch, keeping the top laner alive. I think that's 5 for 5 that Alphari has now survived, even in a 1 versus 4. He walks away with his life. Beautiful stuff from Alphari, but the supporting staff from Origen coming in clutch.
In the LCK, it's the Immortal Score, and the LEC, it's the Immortal Alphari. This man just refuses to die. Someone by an Executioner's calling. Shut this man's healing down. It's just too much. But as you said, whole team effort. They saw that play coming. They get the dragon on the bottom side, and everything just going flawlessly for
So
OG.
what is he? It's 1v4 in this situation. Burns the ultimate early to try and clear the wave to make the siege harder. Unfortunately, he gets hit by the root caller, which makes it easy for Alphari to then set up the... to set up the knockup. Alphari doing what he can to get tiny bits of healing back, and unfortunately, EQ just doesn't have any damage this early into the game. Then Mithy shows up, gets a really good flash taunt, and Rogue, they're just forced to walk away with no tower.
And a tragic Buster shot fired as he was dashing, so it sets him back under the tower. Good input buffer there by EQ. Could have lost his life in that exchange, as Kalista is just getting stronger and stronger.
Well, can we just appreciate that Patrick is 70 CS ahead of EQ right now?
Look, in the flurry, in the blind whirlwind, Vedius, that has been Alphari tower dives, we've kind of forgotten the other lanes. I'm going to be honest.
True.
Fantastic CS discrepancy there for Patrick. Individual, oh my god, are you...
He's actually just obliterated him.
Okay, stats. Please bring us the upcoming schedule for Origen, because this one might be donezo. We'll wait to see if Rogue has signs of life, but let's talk about what's coming up for OG, because in this game, they absolutely do look dominant, Vedius. But when we look at the future, when we look at the upcoming games, you kind of see exactly what's ahead of them. And as you mentioned, they don't get to play those teams they're in contention with, but they do have a pretty comfortable schedule.
Yes, they go up against Schalke, they go up against XL, and you can see that Schalke, while they did get a win today, you can argue that Misfits lost more than Schalke won.
I think that's a pretty easy argument.
And XL, they're playing with a sub, and based on Fnatic's performance earlier in the day, you can see that if you get a control over the game early, then it's very easy to kind of snowball that lane. And I think that right now, Origen are on track to win the next 3 games, and they'll be tied towards the top of the standings. But because there's some head-to-head records, I believe they are 0-2 against Vitality, means that in the event that they are tied, they would not come out ahead on a head-to-head record. I believe that's what Medic was telling us about earlier on. So while the wins are important and that fight for second is still a reality, unfortunately it isn't quite fully in Origen's control.
No, definitely not. Of course, even if they win all 3 of these games, they will only finish at 12-6, and there's enough teams with leads over them that they are kind of relying on some other teams to find some wins, to take down some of these other top contenders. And of course, winning here does lock them into playoffs. What spot will remain to be seen. And
that's important to remember as well. At the beginning of the split, all Origen ever said is that they wanted to qualify for playoffs. That was their split goal. They were invested in growing this team, making sure that they would eventually get better over time. And I think we can safely say that over the course of this split, they have definitely shown significant growth. Really for all players, you know, I think we've criticized pretty much everyone on this roster outside of maybe Nukeduck throughout the entirety of this split. We've said Cold, his impact early game has been non-existent.
Yep.
We've criticized Alfari for constantly dying isolated. Mithy has been one of the main contributors of the early deaths at the beginning of the split. Whereas you look at them now, Patrick is dominating his laning phase. Mithy isn't dying. He's making these clutch plays. Alfari is soaking up all the pressure. Cold has been involved in every kill in the early game, and Nukeduck as reliable and stable as he always has been. So definitely a scary team moving into playoffs. Should they win this game, they will lock that in, and it's shaping up to be pretty exciting playoffs, I think, Dan and Dragos.
Absolutely. I like the playoffs race, of course. 1 week ahead of us. You know, a lot of teams with only 2 games remaining. Some of those teams that we'll see in our final match of the day with 3. Vitality versus G2. But it is a very tight race at the end, and that's what I like to see. I like to see these contentious teams. Some teams rising, some teams falling in the LEC, which is exciting to see. OG, of course, one of these rising teams. And as you mentioned, hard to be critical of this team, as they've improved so much. Almost everything we've kind of criticized or been like, hey, stop dying in the early game. Well, they stopped dying in the early game. They have been making those marked improvements.
I mean, I can't criticize them if you won.
Yeah.
Got some stuff.
Hit me.
All right, so a couple things. In the early game, I felt they could have played better around bot. We already talked about that.
Nice.
Right now, with the Baron spawning relatively soon, you'll actually notice that they've invested no vision towards the top side of the map. That is pretty much entirely controlled by Rogue. And Origen instead is just putting priority on sieging towards these towers. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but trying to break into the base may be difficult if they aren't willing to take a bit of a risk. And this is something that Origen have struggled with in the past. They usually like the 80% plays rather than the 50% ones, and going for a dive, even against a very weakened Rogue, is always a gamble. But I think they're strong enough to do it. Let's see if they can.
Trying to follow up on the rise. Immediately that health bar just disappears. Goodbye to Senkux. Rek'Sai goes in. Rek'Sai goes out. Now the Galio ulti is coming in as well. They're going to have a hard time killing Cold. Alfari is not even into the fight, but they may be able to take down Patrick. That health bar getting lower and lower. Leap in, but the taunt mid-air. Dodge out from the shockwave. EQ now running for his life. Blasting back Patrick to keep himself safe. And OG just going to set their sights on this bot lane tower. Only one member dropping on the side of Rogue, but they're giving up an inhibitor in exchange.
Great to see from Origen. They execute the dive, and while it wasn't the cleanest dive in the world, they end up getting the kill onto Senkux. They get the summoner spells out from Hikyu, and they walk away with an inhibitor 20 minutes into the game. So can't fault them for that. Great to see this kind of aggression from Origen.
And Vedius, now with the bot lane inhibitor down, you said you wanted to see more around the Baron, and I imagine we're going to start to see more around the Baron, but first, we can just take a look at how this bot lane play played out.
So the focus here is clearly Senkux. He's the squisher of the two. Know how it did immediately goes onto the Orianna, which means that insta-kill can't come out, but it doesn't matter because Senkux dies anyway. Patrick here, he gets a little overzealous. He goes onto the front line, allowing Jarvan to just dive on top of him. Nukeduck can't really follow because he's already taken a lot of damage. I believe it was from the tower. But then the moment Alfari joins, Rogue is immediately forced to disengage. So they can't continue on with the fight, but Origen don't care because they get themselves the tower and the inhibitor.
And just absolute dominance from OG. Of course, once again, we look back at this game, remember that Origen have won out in a lot of these individual lanes. The one lane where it really felt like Rogue had an advantage early on, just they could not get anything greater. And so while we were honestly poised to have a slightly closer game, it just feels like individual ability, shined through here for Alfari. Senkux versus the super minions on the bottom side. That is now the story we're looking at. He will not be able to break this tower. Will eventually be able to break the tower.
The one thing we actually haven't talked about is Origen were on track to actually get a perfect game, which will now be ruined by Senkux as he secures his tower in the bot side. They don't really care though, because Origen have the right set on the Baron. Here comes the TPs.
Maybe they can find them in the pit. This would not be the first time today that we've seen a Baron turn everything around for a taking Redemption now comes into the middle of everything. Alfari taking a lot of damage. Redeem finding the head pulverize. Eyes on Hikyu. He's going to be able to take down Patrick. No, Patrick is still alive. That's the shutdown. Big money going to the pockets of Rogue. Now the retreat. Beautiful ulti coming in from Prophet. Realm Warp onto the backside. Would looking for another combo. Gets another 3-man. That's too clean. Nukeduck now running. Desperate to get away from Senkux. Now OG need to find a way out of this play, and Rogue, signs of life showing through.
This is actually a massive team fight for Rogue. I'm curious as to how many shutdowns they got off the back of that fight, because by finding those kills onto Patrick and onto Mithy means that a lot of gold will come back into the pockets of Rogue. And I want you to keep your eyes on the positioning of Patrick in this fight. You'll note right now that he is stuck in the Baron pit, taking all these hits from the Baron. And the moment Origen goes in, he gets that knockup and he hits him immediately back into the Baron pit. That means that it was effectively a 5v6, and Rogue were very quick to utilize that extra member to shut the AD carry down from Origen. This stops the Baron, gets a little bit of gold back in the pockets of Rogue, and will buy them a little bit more time for Hikyu to come online.
And just a really beautifully played team fight by the side of Rogue, especially with Deed. Senkux using the Realm Warp to give him yet another flank. He had a 3-man headbutt pulverize, then a 2-man headbutt pulverize. So clutch in these exchanges, and of course, CC, the one thing you can't buy in the game, so no matter how far ahead OG get, there's still the potential for that Alistair to be the bigger difference maker. That
Ultimately,
said,
though,
yeah,
there's still a what is that,
7K, 3 Drakes, 7 towers to 1. So no doubt that Rogue will need at least 3 more. I'm going to say 3. You kind of just pick a random number bigger than 2 at this stage. More of those fights to turn this game back around.
I mean, the bright side for them is Prophet is as strong as Alfari is.
True.
And he had a pretty good fight overall, diving onto the backline. I loved his use of the Cataclysm to then EQ immediately back out, to trap them all in, to then set up what did for the flank was very, very cool. And this is one thing you do have to respect. Rogue, their team fighting is, their composition is not terrible. We talked a little bit about how the Ivan can offer a lot of protection and utility, and with the Tristana now completing 2 items, he is not, or she rather, is not irrelevant. And so Origen, this might slow them down a lot. We wanted to see a little bit more aggression, wanted to see them try and force more plays. They tried to force the Baron, and it didn't quite go the way that they wanted. So now they're going back to pressuring all 3 lanes. They have bot pushing in their favor. They're going to have mid and top pushing, and what you'll likely see is they'll gain vision control over the top side of the jungle, starve Rogue of vision, and then they'll either force them to come and face check so that they can look for a fight that way, or they might just secure the Baron themselves. And it looks like face check is the option.
And it's not just the gold lead, of course, that puts Origen in a favorable position. It's Kikis going down there in the exchange. No, the shield coming through the Redemption as well. The Ignite ticking, not enough! Redemption just a little bit too slow. That Sky Laser not going to save the day, and now Origen posed to take this. This is not a 50-50, ladies and gentlemen.
It's going in.
Kalista. Woodin still trying to make the difference, trying to make the big play, trying to stop them from getting any further. They're knocking Alfari back. Mindy's on the backside. Look at those carries just get deleted. They cannot fight disjointed like that. OG quick to punish.
And the teleport immediately from Alfari.
Here it is.
Big pick, big fight for Origen. They have the Nexus set in their eyes. This is going to be Rogue falling to the power of Origen.
And ladies and gentlemen, it was a commanding win from Origen. Rogue showed a few signs of life, but overall this was Origen's story from start to finish. Alfari taking all of the gank pressure and turning it into nothing, but an inhibitor respawning could stop this game in its tracks. Will they go for anything else? Super Minion is here, tower falling down. Low respawn timers. Woodid is now back up. PQ back up in 5 seconds. I don't think they can do it, Betty, but there is a chance. They can look for a fight here. The Nexus is exposed. Patrick now pulling back. Prophet has to commit forward because if he doesn't, his base will die. PQ trying to find a few autos, but has to run face first into Alfari. The Renekton is too big, but maybe they can take him down. The healing coming in. Cold now on a rampage. Galio locked off to the side. Senka desperate to find the kill. Moves forward to get knocked up. Now the Zhonya's comes out. They buy a brief moment here. Minty now set to fall. Patrick stepping forward. Rogue still holding on the flash forward. Nuke Duck in trouble to follow him. CC is there. The cleanse immediately may not be enough. He's running. He's going to make it out. Senkuk's looking for more. Kalista threatening in the mid lane. That's going to be the second one. HQ flashes forward. Knocks him back. Does manage to get the kill here. Alfari moving in the waves. They're going to take 3 inhibitors in the exchange, but Rogue could still live. Shutdown is huge. Closer and closer to the 3-item Tristanas. That may be enough for Rogue to hold on a little bit longer, but no doubt that OG, despite losing so many members, still walk away on top as 2 inhibitors have fallen.
The question for me is, do Rogue now look to rush the Baron? They have all 5 members alive. There's no teleport on Alfari, and there's still decent death timers sitting on top of Nuke Duck. Looks like Rogue can't afford to take the gamble. They have to clear out the minion waves. Origen, they're taking a number of gambles. This is not the typical Origen that we see, but not always going in their favor, and this is where the commit comes through. You'll notice that Tristana's still not alive yet. A lot of time is bought by Prophet and Woodid. They're just soaking up a lot of the damage. Hiku then joins the fray. He then initially chunks out Alfari, and Woodid finally drops. Then Senkux joins the fight, and with the 2 damage dealers not really untouched and none of the utility thrown on top of them, they're actually in a great position to start forcing Origen back. And then once Origen take all this damage, remember that Rogue can go back to their base, heal up, and then rejoin the fight. It means that Origen just don't have the resources to continue, but even so, Origen, with the amount of gold lead that they have, is able to turn for an inhibitor. And while Nuke Duck tried, unfortunately, the shockwave was not enough to one-shot EQ, and he finds at least another kill.
Game of inches there, definitely on that play from EQ, but getting that shutdown is massive. 2-1-1. He has 3 items, excuse me, as he continues forward into this game. Woodid still
stay
his
still,
flanks.
because remember, Cold can spot him out with the Tremor Sense, but he's just lying in wait.
Sadly, Hiku could very quickly find himself in no man's land. He
he's
sees
got
multiple
him.
members
He's
coming.
going
He needs
for
to walk
Patrick.
away, but Patrick now in trouble. They're going to try to find the turn here, going face first to the rise, but he's going to channel up the taunt kick. He's doing what damage he can, but the Callista going to be very tanky. Now pulling the support back inside of him. Moves back out. That's going to be a coming in profit. That's Patrick. Flash forward. The auto attack going to get it cold on the back line. Wreaking havoc, though. Cutting through the respective carries. Rogue have nothing left. There is nothing for them. A beautiful fight from OG. The back line finding their way forward.
The flank looked promising for Rogue as they were looking to shut down Patrick, but Origen successfully bought enough time and they turned it into a 4-for-1. Origen had the Nexus in their eyes and they're looking to secure another win and a spot in playoffs.
The Origen faithful are alive in the LEC crowd today as they look at this game, they look at this finish, they look at the dominance coming in from Origen. Wadid doing what he can, but that is going to be all she wrote. Origen securing their spot in the LEC playoffs.
Origen definitely took a lot more risks than they typically do, and while a lot of them did not pan out, it's nice to see a slightly different shade from the side of Origen. Typically, we only talk about them as the calm, calculated, pristine team that only ever makes the 80% chance of success play. Whereas this time around, they were definitely throwing those moves out there, seeing what Rogue could do. And there were small opportunities for Rogue to come back, but unfortunately for Rogue, the goal difference was just too big, and Origen were able to find themselves still overall a very convincing win.
And to be fair to OG, they were heftily in the very, very dominant
Those
goal
risks you could afford to make. You know, they were smart investments.
We can call it that. Or it's just like so rich you don't care if you throw money away. I mean, maybe not a smart investment. You're just so far ahead it doesn't matter to you.
That's very, very fair. And yeah, for Rogue, they did show signs of life. They attacked the top lane a lot, and maybe if they'd been able to shut down Alfari, it could have been a slightly different game, but the difference in the bot lane was absolutely huge. Props to Patrick and Mithy. On top of that, Alfari, the man on the screens, he survived at least 5 ganks that were thrown towards him. Even in a 1 versus 4, yes, he did get a little bit of help, but this man had a fantastic game, and that is a prime example of how you can absorb pressure while the rest of your team dominates.
Just a stunning performance across the board. I really think just dominance once again from the side of Origen. Cole definitely a key player in this team's success. Good to have the Origen fans in the house as well to see this kind of win. Hey, it's Expecting and Officio.
Yeah, it is Expecting and Officio. But they're not the stars of today's show.
They're absolutely not. I'd be lining up to high-five Alfari if I were them too. He just completely shut down a team strategy by himself.
Beautiful stuff from RGE. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do in Week 9, our final week of the split.
Yeah, gonna be interesting. Once again, Schalke, XL. XL has proven that they can kind of be that threat potentially, and Schalke, hard to know.
Really know.
Hard to know where they stand. Now, Oduwamne, regardless of the fact that he was basically fed a quadra kill today, was looking good before that point, so I think that that's a great sign for the team overall. See what it means up against Origen and Alfari. See if Alfari can keep this kind of unkillable streak up.
Alfari is going to be an exciting one.
And this is the thing I love about 9-4 and I guess next week 9-5 as well, is that thank God Sion and Urgot are gone. Can we all just appreciate that? We actually get to watch the top lane.
But did you see it over in the LCK? First game, SKT versus Griffin. Aatrox versus Urgot. But anyway, we didn't see that today. Alfari with some clutch outplays. Early Flash initially looked bad for him. He was a level down. Things were looking dire. But this was the really clutch one. You can see on your minimap, Cold already making his way over, trying to support his top laner, but he didn't really need him. Alfari waited for the red buff to proc. He then came in. He gets the stun. I still think that would have been a kill. I think Alfari should have taken that one, but Cole just getting the secure. And this was the 1 versus... Oh no, this was it. Yeah, the 1 versus 3. Rise comes through. Alfari, he had to use his flash hit.
Flash back up.
But is able to get out of there with his life as well. And now we see the 1 versus 4 play, and he's just trying to clear out the wave. Unfortunately, he gets hit with the root caller. But then you talked about it, Dracos, in the game. That knockback from Tristana, thinking it was enough burst damage. Even so, they still think they can go for the dive, but then that clutch Galio ultimate comes through.
The best part is that second play goes wrong because he's able to walk into a full creep wave, Cole the Meek, empowered, get all of his health back. The next play where they finally have an ignite, he gets knocked away by the buster shot.
Very unfortunate there. And this was the final fight that ultimately decided the game. Patrick looked like he was caught out, but even in that instance, he was able to find himself a kill.
And I'll be honest, when I was casting his team fight videos, I was watching the top of the fight. I was like, Rogue are so great. And then I looked down at the kill feed, and I'm like, wait, all the carries on Rogue are dead. What happened? And it's because it was 2 fights. We had frontliners jumping backliners on both sides, and it turns out the team with the 10K gold lead won the fight. Who would have thought? Well, right now there's a battle between Cold, Alfari, and Mithy for Kia Player of the Game award. You can go to @AllEsports on Twitter and make your vote count. I've already said how I feel, and I will be severely disappointed, audience. Do not disappoint me. To learn more about Origen's win, though, let's leave it to Frankie, who's sitting down with Nuke Duck and Mithy.
Yes, I'm delighted to be joined by the Origin boys, especially as there's a family road trip in the audience. Have you met these fans before? Mithy?
No, we haven't, but we're grateful that they're here.
Yeah, are you surprised to see so many people here, specifically for you today, Nuke Duck?
Yeah, I think it's cool. We have like a lot of Danish fans and Spanish fans. Yeah.
Yeah. And congratulations, guys. You locked playoffs today. How does it feel?
Feels good. Feels like we're on the right track.
Yeah? The right track. Give me something more, Nuke Duck. How does it feel? Dig down, emotional. Give me something.
I'm gonna have to dig deep for that, but no, we just play one game at a time, and for us, if we play well and everything works, playoffs is kind of a given. So for me, it's not really anything special.
But here's the thing, though. Actually, at the start, in the first half of the split, playoffs was not a given. You were not playing on the form that you're playing now. So that is why I'm surprised you're so chilled about this. I'm really curious about how you managed to make things work after that slow start to the split.
Well, it's the start of a new year, new team. So there were a lot of fundamentals and a lot of ideas and things that were different, or like we just were not really that connected. Not to say that now we are like a perfect team or anything close to that, but we understand each other better. So, you know, it's the same as what Erlen just said. We've been taking game at a time, even back then, you know, through the tough times, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, it's just the same now. We're just trying to keep the same mindset.
And now they're calling it Year of the Duck, Nuke Duck. How much of a role have your teammates played in that?
What? Again?
How much of a role has your teammates played in making this the Year of the Duck?
I mean, apparently every year is Year of the Duck, but they know. But yeah, of course, when the team is playing well, it's easier for me to play well. So yeah, they have the greatest impact.
And actually today, what was quite interesting was that we saw you making a few late game gambles. That's uncharacteristic for Origin.
Honestly, it really felt like we were not really playing against an opponent. So we, like, not to say that, not to blame Rogue or anything like that. It's just they were not really making anything proactive. So we tried to take too much, and then they punished us for it. So yeah, we're characteristic, I guess, for our controlled game, but because they were not really doing much, I guess we were not really letting them do much, and then eventually we just felt too confident, and they punished us for it, which was well played by them, but yeah, it was also like us being too overconfident.
Nuke Duck, were you slightly disappointed by how scared Rogue were of you in the early game?
What? You have to speak up a bit.
I'm going to start shouting. So, in the early game, Rogue seemed too scared of you. They didn't even want to present you with fights.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, they were trying some stuff, but yeah, as Smithy said, it felt like it was just open, to be honest, like at 15 minutes. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, we've had a bit of BMing of the poor Rogue boys, but yesterday, Cold actually went a little bit in on G2. So I'm curious to know what you guys are thinking, because you are going to be seeing them in playoffs for sure now.
You mean how we feel about playing G2?
He said that you guys play smart, but G2, not so much. Do you back him up on that?
Everyone has their, you know, I don't think League is like a very complex game. Everyone plays how they, like everyone just plays to win. I guess G2 plays really overconfident. Because, you know, they feel like they can take 4v5s or 3v5s sometimes, and they do take them, and they usually come out ahead. So I'm not to say that they're not playing smart. I'm pretty sure that they are aware that they're taking a 3v5. They're just, you know, taking it anyway because they trust in their own skill. So I respect them, but I definitely feel like we can beat them.
Okay. Well, I've been told that we are ready to reveal the key up player of the game. Who do you think it is, guys?
It's me.
Yeah, I don't know who. Maybe Cold or Mithy or Barney, I don't know.
What is up with you guys today? You were wrong on all counts. It was Alfari.
Yeah, that's Barney.
There you go. Oh,
What?
of course.
It wasn't me?
60% of the vote went to Barney. I know him as Alfari. You'll have to forgive me on that one, you duck. Now, we are going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, though, because after this break, we've got our match of the day. It's G2 versus Vitality.